right. We are? Okay.
How y'all doing today? We're talking some NBA stuff as usual, just me and Theo here. Yeah.
Yeah,
How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm back on my bird watching grind. I decided that's not enough of my personality and I gotta bring it back.
I
And so
recently I recently did the same thing. I used to be more into photography and take photography classes. So I ordered some film cameras.
some film cameras. I got my digital camera right here. I took some nice pictures of a pelican. I'll drop those on the timeline after this live. I'll get those all uploaded and edited, and you're gonna see my pelican, and it's gonna be awesome. So yeah, I went bird watching. I saw an American pipit. That's probably bird of the day. And yeah, I haven't seen a pipit in a long time, so I was excited.
But you had a NBA trade that you wanted to talk about. You wanted to talk about Harden for Simmons.
Yes, I think of all the trades that have been posed.
Well,
That's okay because this is Zoom and not Riverside, and I can just plug it back in and keep talking.
oh, it's true.
Yes. Harden and Simmons
Mhm.
was for Simmons. I think that is going to happen. That is my take. I think that Harden will be traded for Ben Simmons, and I think that makes a lot of sense for both teams, right? Like, of all the things, like that one to me, the Nets are getting. I mean, the Sixers were all like, well, what are they going to trade him for? Like they're turning down all these offers that seem pretty good. It's almost like they want like a all-star in return, and I'm not sure they can get one for Simmons. James Harden is the all-star in return. I think that's as good of a second option for Embiid as you're going to get. And I think for the Nets, like I think Simmons is a pretty valuable piece to them, even more than maybe Harden could be, because like they've got Durant and they've got Kyrie and they've got Harden. Like, oh my God, like that's a really good 2K team, and those are three really good scorers. But do you really need all those three? Or maybe I think Simmons could be more useful because he wouldn't need to shoot in the playoffs, or he wouldn't need to do all these things. He could just defend and do the things he's good at. And the Sixers would get that second option, that scoring guard for Embiid. So I really like that trade when I listened to it. And Matt, I want to hear your thoughts on like you how you think that could possibly go for both teams.
I don't love it for the Nets. I think the problem with Simmons is that you can't get just the good without the bad. The ball is going to have to be in his hands sometimes on offense, unless you're going to play him at like the 5, but he's never done that before. Um, he's going to mess up your spacing. And I think the big thing is that Kevin Durant, I can't imagine he wants to play with Ben Simmons. These are like the two like polar opposite type players. And I understand that maybe you don't want 3 guys who are all great scorers, but I'll take 3 guys who can all move the ball around and score really well rather than a dude who was, a total disaster mess in the playoffs. So I don't think you can have too many guys like Kyrie, Harden, and Kevin Durant. And then what could happen is like, okay, Kyrie Irving is the most injury prone, the most questionable player to play. I don't trust him at all to play a full series, both with the vaccination stuff and just with how healthy he is. So if you trade Harden for Simmons and you're down to just KD, it's the exact same thing you were doing last year. And I just want to
I
avoid that.
I agree with like how it would mesh personality wise. I mean, having Kyrie and Ben Simmons on the same team, like the two guys who could play and just don't, like the two guys in the whole league that like do stuff like that on the same team. Um, I don't know if you're the Nets front office, you want to deal with that headache and deal with, these personalities. I mean, one is probably enough for them to deal with, but I mean, James Harden has a player option next year, right? He could opt in for, it looks like $47 million. So he'll probably do that, I would guess he would probably say, "Yeah, I'll play with the Nets for $47 million." But I mean, you're not guaranteed that right now. And then after that, he's an undrafted, not an undrafted free, unrestricted free agent. So if you could get someone like Simmons, and you could like get maybe him long term or longer term, that's a lot of a better move than losing Harden for nothing, if that's what it comes down to. So I don't know. I think that this one is not on a lot of people's radar, and Simmons is so hated right now and viewed as this absolute bum. And if it happened, like it would get slant. The Nets would catch a lot of slander for it. But honestly, I don't know. I feel like you could still have the scoring load get carried by, hypothetically, you could have it get carried by Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And like you wouldn't need Harden to be an explosive offense with those two ever. And if you added Simmons to that mix, and you could get a guy who could just defend, and again, you're like, well, he's going to need the ball in his hands at some point. There's nowhere to go but up. I think like from where he's at, like that Hawks playoff series, I can't imagine it gets worse. Like the ball in his hands worked for the Sixers for a long time, where it's like if you can let him do what he's good at with this team, and he doesn't need to be a number two option, and he can be kind of just a defender and a passer and a facilitator. I don't know. I think that that's not a horrible move. I'm probably rather just have those three: Harden, KD, and Kyrie maybe. But I imagine an offer for Simmons is maybe more tempting than a lot of people might expect.
Yeah, I can kind of get behind, like, maybe if you think Simmons, like Harden is gone after this year, you'd think about it. But even then, you could sign and trade him. I it's just a little hard for me to buy into Simmons because he is such a big personality. And is he even going to want to play in Brooklyn? And then you're going to have two guys who you don't even know if are going to play, and you're sticking Kevin Durant out on a limb. It's just a lot. And I still do think it's not about Simmons needing to be like the first or second option. It's hard on your offense when a guy is not playing, like when you're not in the dunker spot and you can't shoot. It's a problem for your team. And it's not like he's just a bad shooter, he's a not shooter. So I feel like the whole mindset of the Nets is kind of the opposite of Ben Simmons, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
not.
I could agree there. I don't know. I think that this one, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. And looking at from the 76ers side, I mean, and would the Nets even make a trade with the 76ers, like another team kind of at the top of the East?
Yeah, that's the other
Like
thing.
that's the other thing where it's like that kind of seems like you'd want to, if you're gonna trade Harden away and you think he's gonna leave, and you think you want to get what you can from him now, surely you could get other packages from other teams, and you could ship them far away from the top of the Eastern Conference if you really wanted to. So I don't know, obviously, but this is something I've heard. This is a rumor I've heard. I don't think it's coming from nowhere, but yeah, I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
want to talk about that one because I think it's super interesting. And then I think like, yeah, and then
If
from
you
the
were like,
76ers side, Harden and Embiid, I think that works really well
oh,
because yeah.
oh yeah. Well, I think if you were like, we need to trade Harden, which I don't think they do. I mean, I would try to send him somewhere else in the West in like a three-team trade or something. Like, imagine getting yourself more depth. Like, I keep bringing them up because they're gonna like blow it up eventually. But you could go after like Turner and one of those guards from the Pacers, and your defense would be better, and you'd still, it wouldn't be like you have a hole at that position where Harden is leaving. And you'd obviously, they wouldn't want James Harden if they're rebuilding, but I'm just saying. But I don't know. I don't know. Should the Cavs trade for Ingram? I don't think Ingram's going to get traded. You're big on Brandon Ingram.
I'm a big Brandon Ingram fan. I think he's super underrated. He's surrounded by nobodies right now and still putting up pretty good numbers. I think. I think he's. Yeah, I'm a big Brandon Ingram fan. Yeah, I think everyone should trade for Brandon Ingram. I think Zion should get healthy, and the Pelicans should build around those two. I wish. I love those guys both so much. I think that they're both all-star caliber players. I mean, there are two all-stars on the Pelicans, and they just suck. They just suck because of all these factors, and it's just so hard to get stuff right in the NBA with it's just you would think like, oh, when Kevin Durant and Kyrie teamed up, you would think, okay, this is at least one championship. And then once Harden came, you're like, okay, this is definitely a couple championships. And now we're here talking like, are they even going to get one? Or Paul George and Kawhi, like, oh man, that would definitely be a championship. You know, imagine if in 2019 you said neither the Nets nor the Clippers will win a championship, like with their nucleuses that they built. And I mean, nothing's guaranteed. Like the Warriors kind of made it seem like you build a super team, you'll get rewarded, or the Heat made it seem like you build a super team, you'll get rewarded. But it's like it's not that easy. It's not
Well,
that
I mean,
easy.
both those
Those teams had like
teams
way
had,
more and top like 10
yeah.
players of all time. But anyway, it's crazy how hard it is in the NBA that you can have 40% of your starting five be all stars and just not be a very good team sometimes.
Well,
Gotta be healthy.
I mean, the Pelicans are awful too.
Yeah.
They're really terrible. And we've been talking about this for a long time about how long do you hold out for Zion to get healthy? Not this season, but
right.
just in general before it's like he's just not going to.
Right.
I do want to see, they're not like so far out. You're like, this team is missing its best player. And it still could, if you gave him Zion now, they'd be competing for the 10th seed. So I don't know. Talk about Curry being a fraud and putting up tour dates.
I was gonna bring that up next. Yeah. Does that concern you at all? I my thing with Curry is like, does anybody think Curry's a bad shooter?
I mean, it's just like,
no.
what am I gonna believe? Like, I think maybe part of it is he's not finishing as good as he has before around the rim. At least from what I've noticed, from what some other people have been saying. And maybe you could, attribute that to like if you're shooting worse somewhere on the court, then, it locks you up a little bit everywhere else. But I think he'll eventually get it back. He has kind of played himself out of the MVP talks for now, though.
Yeah, for sure.
How did the Celtics get Murray from the Spurs? Trade, like it wouldn't be a Harden package, but it would be kind of close to it, and it'd be worth it. That'd be the move I'd make if I were the Celtics.
Zion is the most underrated player in the league. He's a tough one because it's like, is he gonna play? Like,
he doesn't play.
Zion's like another New Orleans icon, Michael Thomas in the NFL, where it's like you could be like, oh, Michael Thomas is so underrated. Michael Thomas is top 5 when he's healthy or whatever. But it's like, at some point, you got to make sure that this dude's still the same guy. Like, is it like?
I mean, it's just. I understand we're not supposed to hold that against players. You got to play though. He doesn't play ever. He like. There's some guys where it's not even like, do you think they're going to get injured? It's that they are going to get injured. And right now, Zion is in the category of, until he proves otherwise, he is going to get injured. Can he play 82 games?
All right. What do the Hawks have to do to get back in the playoffs? I think the Hawks are interesting because they've got this young core, right? And it seems like when you trade a young core for like a star, which is, I think, like the thing that the Hawks are facing right now is like, do you trade John Collins? Do you trade Hunter? They already traded Reddish, or like, what do you do if you're the Hawks? And it's like, I look around the league and I see like, oh, the Lakers have blown up their young core how many times? And all of them seem to be pretty good. Like, all of them, maybe if you waited another year and you kept Brandon Ingram or Russell, like, they got good. And Kuzma got good in Washington, where it's like, sometimes I feel like blowing up young cores after a bad season or a down season is not quite the slam dunk move or something that needs to happen quite right away. Because it's like, I'm willing to bet if you trade John Collins away, there's a decent chance that eventually that guy is playing in an all-star game or something. Like, I think that he has a lot of talent. He's really good. And I don't know, like, after one bad year, I would be cautious if I was the Hawks. You're not quite a dumpster fire, but I don't know. You hired the interim coach, which you're not really supposed to do. If you're building a championship team, never hire the interim. But I don't know. I kind of feel like the Hawks are running a risk trading away. They've got so much young talent, and I kind of feel like eventually it would mesh if you could just get it right. I don't know.
Well, you gotta be patient for sure a little bit. I mean, the important thing is that you've got a guy who can obviously be good enough and is good enough probably now to lead a championship level offense. And there's only a handful of guys like that. And to have that high level offense that you need to win a championship, you need to have one. So the easy part is everything else, even though it's not that easy. But I'm not saying you should or shouldn't blow it up. Like long term, this season does not matter for the Hawks. If
Yeah,
we're talking about winning their championship window, it's just not open yet. Trae Young's so young, they've got him locked up, so they're all good. But if an offer's there to blow it up that gets you a number 2 guy, I'm doing it. I think with your Lakers example, how good would that Lakers young core be if they were all on the team?
fair,
I
fair.
like
And I
I
guess they did get a championship out of some of these trades. So
It's like
yeah,
the in the NBA, you can have a lot of those like all-star level play. I mean, they'd have Julius Randle and they'd have Brandon Ingram and they'd have D'Angelo Russell. And those, well, they wouldn't have LeBron if they still had D'Angelo Russell. So, but I mean, you put all the D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Kuzma, that's probably, I mean, that's a good playoff team. That's probably a first round exit. And I like a lot of the young guys for the Hawks. Um, but I'm not shying away from a good offer. Now, is there one out there? I don't know. A lot of Hawks fans want Ben Simmons because they're bad on defense and he's good on defense, and he's kind of the same age as Trae Young. But I don't think Ben Simmons is that type of defender. Ben Simmons is not a turn the defense around completely type defender. He's like a wing stopper, and that's great. And he's super, super good at it. He's one of the best defenders in the league, but that's not what Draymond. He's not like a mobile big. He's not like he's not like the centerpiece, the anchor for a defense. So I wonder if his impact is enough for me to like
I don't
blow
know.
it up.
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see maybe his stats without Embiid like defending, because obviously you don't really need to have an anchor big in your starting rotation because you have Embiid who can be that guy. And it's like, I know Simmons isn't Draymond, but it's like potentially he's just so good at defense, like in his role that he's been playing. Could he play a bigger role and play in the paint a little bit more? I don't like. I guess I don't know. That's probably above my pay grade a little bit. But anyway, I think as long as we're talking about the Hawks and some of the trades that they've made, I'm looking at Cam Reddish's numbers since they made that trade, and I'm looking at the minutes, and it goes 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 minutes, 5 minutes, 0 minutes, which I think is interesting strategy by the Knicks to make this trade and then not play Cam Reddish. Thank you, Thibodeau. Very cool.
Oh, Thibodeau is maybe a little bit of a weirdo.
He is a little bit of a weirdo with the minutes. I remember him on the Timberwolves.
I would say, I mean, per 100 possessions, looking at the stats now, he's averaging 20 a game. So
20 a game
what
for
are we
100
talking
minutes. What are we talking about? Jeez, that max contract is coming right up.
And that take is probably not going to age well because he probably won't get the minutes in time. But it's the truth. It's why they traded him. If he were to play really well and put up like 18, 20 a game with good defense, he would get the max. And if he does anything less, it's not that great of a trade. He's going to get paid for his potential, I'm telling you. But
right. I think it's interesting. Thibodeau is such an interesting guy for me because, like, he's just not going to play guys that he doesn't think is like going to help them win like immediately. And if Reddish is in his dog, like, I wonder what the stress that puts on the GM, you know, like you made this trade for this guy with all this potential, and then your coach Thibodeau is like, Didn't need him. Don't want him. Don't care. He's on the bench. Don't care. We're making this run with the guys we have. And I wonder what kind of tension that creates, and the expectations were so high already for the Knicks after that win. Now they're just kind of mid. I wonder if Thibodeau, like, what kind of job, like, security he has if he angers the GM with a move like this and then they like miss the playoffs. I bet you that kind of pisses the GMs off, because the GMs don't want to believe they built this team that is bad. So if they get this Reddish deal done and then he doesn't play at all this year, like I think that creates a very interesting dynamic between Tibbs and the front office. So
I think it's maybe a little early to say with Reddish.
I think so too, but it's just where my head
It's like
went.
there's a whole lot of stuff that could be happening that we don't know about. Um, if I had to guess, I mean, Cam Reddish is a small forward, and this year RJ Barrett, he's been a small forward too. You're obviously not gonna bench RJ Barrett or whatever. So I think splitting the minutes between them is probably a little tough, and that maybe makes it a little bit harder to get him on the court. So I think in 10 games, if this is still a problem, then I start to question what are we doing?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, definitely got to give him a little bit more of a chance. But it's like looking at the Knicks like lineups right now, and it's like, man, we got Quentin Grimes playing 15 minutes a game and averaging 5 points during that time. It's like, oh man, I kind of think Cam Reddish might be better than this dude. But I don't know. I guess I don't know. He's shooting 40% from three though, so I guess that's pretty good to come off the bench and just hit a three. But yeah, no, that's interesting. That's an interesting
Ritter
thing
has
to
a
talk
below
about.
average NFL arm. You don't mean that.
Ritter has a very average NFL arm, in my opinion. It's not a cannon. When I see people, I've seen him compared to Josh Allen, and it makes me laugh because that's not
Well,
that's not the
now
type of
that's the
athlete
new
that he
thing.
is. Yeah.
Every single guy is gonna get compared to.
Oh, he's not that accurate. His placement is bad. Oh, that's Josh Allen. That's Josh Allen. But this is not an
Any
NFL scheme.
Bradley Beal trades. I've seen a lot of people talking about this. I mean, I would probably trade him.
I
Bradley
would
Beal
too.
strikes me as a number two who's a number one on a team that's being held back from either being as bad as they need to be or getting the assets from them and then getting better because of it. I mean, it makes sense for the 76ers. I think that's the number one team that comes to mind.
Yeah,
You know how
I
hard
mean,
that trade stuff is.
I would do a Ben Simmons for Bradley Beal trade in 1 second if I was the 76ers, right? I think that's a perfect fit to have Embiid and then this number two all-star caliber guard. And you're trading away a guy who's never going to play for the 76ers again. All right. Like, this is a nothing. This is no asset to you. And you could just get Bradley Beal maybe just like that. Potentially, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it seems too easy to just say like, oh, you could do that. No problem. Because then I think they would have done it already. But who knows with these 76ers. But yeah, Bradley Beal, the Wizards, I think they did a good job with the Westbrook trade. I mean, it seems like they kind of won that. Kuzma's been balling out. You've got this young core.
Yeah, they won the Westbrook trade pretty
Pretty
handily.
handily.
I mean,
Yeah,
you would if any single asset from that trade is probably you would probably do one for Westbrook at this moment
yes.
if you were the Lakers, but um it's it's brutal. They're in a brutal spot, the Lakers.
Anthony Davis comes back tonight, right?
Hey,
He comes back
hey.
tonight, so I'll probably be watching that. I'll probably be working on my Lamar Jackson video with the Lakers on in the background, and we'll see how Anthony Davis looks in his return. But I mean, they're in the play. I always like think I'm still in playoff mode where the 8 seed is in the playoffs, but they're not. They're in the play in. And
It's frustrating to think. I miss when it was 8 teams.
I like the play-in games. I liked watching them last year. I had a lot of fun. But looking at it now, it's like, okay, I'm like, oh yeah, right, the play-ins instead of just the top 8
The
teams.
chat is gently notifying us that He came back
Oh, he came back
yesterday.
yesterday. My fault, guys. He came back.
What
I
games
knew
are
it
on
was
tonight?
going to be one of these days. All right. How he played yesterday, not that many minutes. Sorry. Anthony Data Davis is a top 3 nickname. I'd agree.
It I mean, the thing is that through everything the Lakers have done, through everything they'd probably be mostly okay if Anthony Davis just plays like himself and they stop playing like the DeAndre Jordans and the Avery Bradleys. And you've got enough assets to go trade for like another role player who's willing to just like do what Caruso did, and you're mostly fine because LeBron's still playing like an MVP. Maybe that's easier
Yes.
said than done.
It is. I don't know. You're right. I think their problem is not so much with the big three as it is who they've surrounded the big three with. Like, I just cannot imagine a world where if they had a competent offseason, they would still be, this bad. Like, or Davis needs to play better, but it's like Westbrook cannot be your like shooter. You got to surround these guys with like shooter, and they just like didn't do that this offseason in the way that they needed to do it. And I feel like if they would have surrounded him with the role players or planned that out a little bit better and surrounded these three with like some shooters, it would go okay, but they just didn't. And now it just sucks and they don't know what they're doing and they're playing DeAndre Jordan. But yeah, okay. Anthony Davis did play yesterday. My fault, everybody. But how many minutes did he play yesterday? Probably not that many. And they've got a shot with him coming back. Hopefully, this is a big if as we're talking about Zion and injuries and stuff. Hopefully, Data Davis, gets back to his old self. And if they're rolling going into playoffs and they make it, they win their playing game, and they're like the 6th seed or something or the 8th seed. I mean, if they can like just get to the point where they draw like the Grizzlies in the first round or something like that, you can see it a little bit with Davis coming back still. Like just get to the competent, get to this like baseline level of play where you're the 6th seed, you get the Grizzlies or something in the first round. That's a winnable series for them, and just hope you figure it out at some point. But yeah, no, it's again, the Grizzlies might beat them. I mean, that's not a lock for sure, but like, I don't know.
They aren't starting Monk for some reason. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what are we doing? It's one thing to not have the guys. It's like, and they don't 100%. They still need to, but they're. I think their roster is within striking distance of having enough good role players. But half the problem is that they haven't made that move yet, and the other half is that they keep giving like DeAndre Jordan minutes. What would like or when this offseason they pick you're like, okay, they got Westbrook and Dwight Howard. Well, they're gonna need to get the spacing right. And then they go pick up like Rondo. It's like, what are we doing? How is he gonna play?
Right.
And they had exactly that problem. They had to move off Rondo. So I think a lot of their problems are just gonna be solved by or could be solved by getting rid of some of these vets. Or Avery Bradley. Yeah, Avery Bradley is so mediocre.
Bad.
And
He's
they
bad. He sucks. He's not good. He's not good.
and
And
he
I
just
wonder I would love to just get a glimpse inside the politics of the Lakers organization and just why is the minutes like it is? And like, why did they make the decisions? Because it's like, is Le GM back at it again, playing with his friends? Wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Or like, is Vogel just dumb? I don't think so. I don't think that he is. I kind of feel like I don't like why would they release Caruso? Like, who thought that was a good idea to not pay Caruso? Like, who could
the
possibly?
Caruso one is just everything else. I get where they're coming from, but not paying Caruso was just, and he didn't ask for that much, was just stupid.
Right,
It was just dumb. Um,
right. So someone's really dumb. Someone. And even the Westbrook, yeah, Westbrook, I can see where you're coming from, where it's like this explosive, like you have this star and LeBron can kind of rest. I don't know, but yeah, the Caruso offseason, it's like it shouldn't be that hard to make a finals contender when you have AD and LeBron. You just like need to have off seasons that are like okay. Like just don't screw it up too much. Don't build a team that is like too horrible. Like as long as you're okay, it'll be fine. And they couldn't even do that, right? So Lakers bad, sadly. LeBron going back home to Cleveland to
I'm
the
afraid they get what they
dictatorship
deserve.
will go back to Cleveland and win a ring with Garland and Mobley and his son Bronny James Jr.
But I don't know. I look at the roster and it's like, okay, you've got obviously the big three. And then outside of that, Carmelo Anthony, totally playable. Malik Monk, totally playable. Reeves, totally playable. Stanley Johnson, Dwight Howard. I mean, you're like, go make one trade for one or two more guys and just play the guys who are actually positive role players. And I don't know if you're going to win the championship, but you won't be fighting to make the play-ins. Yeah. And they just don't do it.
They just don't do it. What are some other teams to talk about? Teams that we don't talk about all that much. Cade, rookie of the year. Don't care. Talk about Cade dropping 35. Well, tonight on the podcast, or not tonight, tomorrow on the podcast, we're bringing in someone who might be able to talk about these Pistons. Can we reveal the guest?
Yes.
What
happens if we do and we're not supposed to?
I don't think anything happens. Pistons fans, we have Motown Noah on as our guest tomorrow on the podcast. So we'll talk a lot about Cade Cunningham and Jeremy Grant and whoever else is on the Pistons. That one guy, that one point guard that I thought was okay, but
Killian Hayes.
What?
Killian Hayes.
Yeah, Killian Hayes. Yeah, I thought that him and Cade would be a really good guard duo, or it would be an underrated guard duo, but sadly, I mean, maybe they are. But anyway, yes, we will be talking a lot about the Pistons in the next podcast episode. So I kind of want to not exhaust all my Pistons talk right now, although we only have we have 113 people watching, so
we're up.
We'll talk about the Pistons later. I think.
How's Phoenix, man? The team.
Phoenix. I saw a Suns game the other day. I was at Footprint Center and I watched the Suns play the cardboard cutout Jazz with like House as their best player, and like Gobert was out and Conley was out and Donovan Mitchell was out. So it was like yeah, it was like Clarkson leading, but they were winning in the fourth quarter, and then the Suns boa constrictor, and the thing I talk about all the time with like the Heat, and it's like when things are tight in the fourth quarter, you just want a bunch of basketball geniuses out there, and Chris Paul and Booker and JaVale McGee and those guys are all like basketball geniuses. So whenever it's close in the fourth quarter, the Suns just go boa constrictor mode and just kill teams. So that's what happened to the poor Jazz when I watched them the other day, and the Suns ended up winning that game by I think like 10 or so. So go Suns. Yeah,
they're kind of a known entity at this point.
Yeah.
The East
they added like, Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo, not bad at all. That was really.
You guys are gonna have. You've got Beyond. Do you still have Kaminsky? He's still on the team, right?
He was like playing really well for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but Biyombo good. Everyone on the Suns is good. Yeah, JaVale McGee, basketball genius. Yes, JaVale McGee is basketball genius, even though he does dumb as shit.
He's awesome.
Sometimes. He is. He's a vet. He knows what's up. Love JaVale.
Talk about the Bucks. I'm not sure what there is to say about the. I mean, you kind of knew going into the season that they were going to be. Two things were going to happen with them. They were going to be really good, and people were going to sleep on them to make it back to the finals and win it. Because it's just boring. It's just not interesting to pick them to win it. And then Giannis was going to have an MVP caliber season and probably wasn't going to get the recognition for it. And both of those things are happening in my opinion. I mean, they're a game. The gap between the 6th seed and the 1 seed in the East right now is 2 games. It's nothing. Talk about Anthony Edwards' 40.0 assist. I mean, LaMelo probably would have gotten some assists as well in his 40-point game. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I guess good awesome for Anthony Edwards. I guess it's an all right game for him.
I saw a stat the other day that it was like most most 40-point games before their whatever birthday, 22nd birthday. And it's like LeBron with 8, and then like a couple guys tied with 4. And Anthony Edwards was on that list with like, I can't remember who else was on it, but it was like all super huge names, like first ballot Hall of Famers. So he's on pace for a decent career. Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, I believe they are the 7 seed in the West right now. And again, they've got 3 all-star caliber players on that team. Depth kind of makes me cringe a little bit, but on paper, fully functional Timberwolves are dangerous, but they are Minnesota sports and they will fuck it up. So, yeah.
That's kind of my thought. LaMelo wasn't on that list, by the way. He's passing to his teammates because he's like not selfish. I don't know.
You're still I don't know anything about the battle you fought with Timberwolves fans. That is an unknown entity to me. I fought with my share of battles.
I just said that I think LaMelo Ball's ceiling is reasonably higher than Anthony Edwards. And some people disagree with that. It kind of depends on what you define ceiling as. I mean, if like we're gonna say that both of them it's only athleticism, and then like hypothetically Anthony Edwards could become the passer LaMelo is, then sure, Anthony Edwards does have a higher ceiling, but that's not going to happen. So I think realistically, LaMelo Ball has the potential to be both a great passer and scorer. And I think
yeah,
that gives him better odds to become that high level offensive player.
I don't know. I guess I don't care. This is your battle to fight, not mine. I'm a very big Anthony Edwards appreciator, and playing for the Minnesota team, I'm a big fan. I like LaMelo too a lot, and
he's awesome.
He's awesome. So both good. I would say that I had LaMelo in my All-Star voting, and I did not have Anthony Edwards in my All-Star voting.
Tells you all you need to know, I'm afraid.
Clearly, LaMelo is clear of that.
Does LaMelo have the dunk of the year and a 45-inch vertical? Does Anthony Edwards have a Rick and Morty shoe? No, no.
Yeah,
I'm getting those for sure if I can.
You're a big Rick and Morty fan. I know you had Rick and Morty in your top 10.
See, I don't. Of all time. Look. I can be honest. I can be truthful and say, yeah, I like Rick and Morty. I know, but so many people like Rick and Morty. It is a good show, but you don't want. I'm not a Rick and Morty fan.
It's like Kanye.
Because of the implication. It's like Kanye.
We both listen to a lot of Kanye. I have Kanye as one of my most listened to artists of all time. I am not a Kanye fan, and do not lump me in with those guys. All right.
It's like if you were at a party and somebody was asking you, it's like, hey, what's your favorite show, or like what's a show you really like? I'm not gonna say Rick and Morty because I don't want to be the guy saying Rick and Morty. Same thing with Kanye. And I love Kanye's music. But if the first thing that pops to your mind is like, Kanye,
yeah,
the implications.
But you would get the shoes. You would get the Rick and Morty shoes.
Oh, dude. I mean, that's just. I would have gotten the last pair, but they're like straight like red orange. I really don't love that. And he's got like a gray and orange pair, and then a black and blue pair, and now the Rick and Morty ones. But I don't know how much I'll wear them, but LaMelo Ball is a high IQ player on the basketball court because he's got the Rick and Morty shoes on. And he's a great passer and just sees the field a lot better because he's a high IQ individual to understand that show. We're gonna get like the Bleacher Report, like how they did that Patrick Star thing with Larry Nance.
Yes,
we're gonna get that with like Rick and Morty. He's gonna like pass the ball, like go through a Rick and Morty portal. When that happens, pull up this clip, please.
That video is one of my favorites of all time when it'll just pop up occasionally with no context. Why did they do that? Anyway, Futurama is clear of Rick and Morty in my opinion. If you want your random ass space animated show, Rick and Morty is like the popular one, but like the cool indie pick is Futurama, and it's clear.
Futurama is not indie. I've just recently learned this. Futurama is like one of those shows that I didn't know it was, but it's one of those shows that you're supposed to feel like really good for liking. And I like Futurama, but I didn't realize it had such a cult following.
It does. It's really good. It's the only TV show I've ever rewatched ever. I've seen it all the way through twice, and it's the only one that I have done that. But Beach Report literally did a Rick and Morty edit, says Bob Xavier.
Maybe they did.
Are you watching Euphoria? Look, I have seen parts of an episode of Euphoria, and I was not impressed. All right.
I don't remember. I saw parts of season 1, and I don't know. There's other shows I'd rather watch. I rewatched Moneyball.
It seems like well shot Riverdale to me. Like it just seems like I watch it and all these high school kids are doing like this crazy shit, and it's like so much drama, and it's like I don't know. It's like I don't think that this is how things go. I'd rather watch something else. I don't know.
BoJack Horseman is better than Rick and Morty. BoJack Horseman is teetering on the edge of I cannot say I like this, because it's got a couple problems. Number one, the first half of season 1 is like they didn't figure out what they were trying to do yet, so it's like a really really cringy adult cartoon type deal, and it gets better. It does. But then you'll watch BoJack Horseman, you'll be like, that was really good, and then all of a sudden, like a month later, a clip of it will pop up on your Twitter or whatever, and you'll be like, this is just, am I sure I liked this? And it is
this
good.
This is a show you ranked as your favorite of all time, and you're like,
yeah, well, Breaking Bad might be above it. It might be 2 now. With more
that's
time
fair.
to think
Breaking
about
Bad to me is really good. I think I had that as 6, but at any rate, BoJack Horseman, I watched the whole thing too, and I liked it a decent amount, but it's not my top 10 just because I think it gets a little bit okay, we get it. Like that's my only thing with it.
Oh, but have you seen Don't Look Up?
I have not seen Don't Look Up.
It also gets a little bit okay.
That's what I've heard, where it's like okay,
but I don't think it's trying not to be. So I don't mind it too much. I mean, you kind of, if you expected it to be subtle, you're probably not gonna like it.
Yeah, Succession is a show I love, and it got bordering on that in season 3, where it's like the beginning of season 3 was like, okay, we get, like, all the characters were just like doing the same stuff again, and it's like, okay, we get it, we get that Roman is that, we get that Shiv and Tom are that, we get that. And I was like, Succession, you're teetering real close right now to some kind of ham-handedness. And then they kind of salvaged it in the finale, and everything got kind of shaken up. So now I'm back in on Succession after that finale. But
The View from Halfway Down is 12 out of 10 episode. That definitely should have been the last episode. I think it not being the last episode was brutal. And then the final one, it's like a lot happened, and then there's because some of the talking scenes are really, really cheesy. There's like one, maybe I'll send it to you if I find it again. There's one with Todd that's like really, really corny. Community top 4 TV show of all time. Community is great.
I just started watching some Community. I thought it was pretty funny. Mr. Robot, I think I rated that as my
Oh yeah, you were hyping up Mr. Robot a little while ago.
Mr. Robot I rated as my second favorite TV show ever. Mr. Robot is really good. Yeah. I have not watched any animes. Psych is really good. Theo seems like the kind of guy to like Arrested Development a lot. I am the type of guy that likes Arrested Development a lot.
That show rules.
Yeah.
That's another one like Community where it sucks that it fell off so hard.
I never watched the fall off part of Arrested Development. Once they got I watched after like the real finale, and then I didn't continue. I haven't watched when it fell off. So for me, I still hold Arrested Development in the highest regard, because I don't know what happened after that. Elliot Anderson. I assume he means Alderson. Dude. Yeah, no. Mr. Robot is next freaking level. Anyway, back to basketball. The real greatest show of all time. Hoops. The Association. I don't know.
You know what? My Ben Simmons hot take is that he's like not that underrated right now.
Yeah.
I think it's like Ben Simmons is a great player if he just plays differently than how he actually plays. That's the hope, right? Is that he won't play like Ben Simmons when you trade for him. And I'm not saying that he can't change. I'm just saying that he has done nothing to make me think that he will.
Right.
He has a skill set to play like Draymond Green, but he doesn't. Or it's like if he was more aggressive, he could be kind of like Giannis, but he isn't. Or if he would shoot, but like all they did is ask him to shoot like 1 3 a game, just take one. He didn't do it. So, and he doesn't want to play anywhere. I don't know. I'm tired of hearing about Ben Simmons. I'm tired of hearing about Russell Westbrook, dude. Oh, all right. Okay. I get it. He's not good. He can't shoot. But every other night, I'm seeing a clip of him hitting some part of the backboard. I didn't know you could get the ball.
The shot clock looking like me out there.
I am still on Green Room, just not currently, but it will be later. What are your hot takes? Is Embiid MVP so far? I had an Embiid MVP take, so I hope, because I want that to come true.
Let's see. What are my hot takes? Mikal Bridges is a borderline all-star in my opinion, and I think you can make a case that he's as valuable as a role player as Draymond Green is for the Warriors. I think that he is a player that is deserving of the max, and I'm a big Bridges fan. All right, that dude is clamps. That dude shoots like 60% effective field goal percentage. The Suns are not where they are without Bridges playing as a role player and the defense he provides. And I'm a big Bridges truther.
Russ stands deserve the Purple Heart. Did you come up with that, dude? That's a good one if you did.
Russ stands they either deserve the Purple Heart or they deserve to be in jail or some sort of psychiatric facility, because at this point it's like a mental disorder.
Timberwolves 2022 NBA champions. I can't get behind it, man. They have no bench.
Yeah, Bridges praise. Yes, sir. Where does Goran Dragic end up? Oh, I had a take. The Cavs. I think he ends up on the Cavs. Wait, do I? Rubio's hurt for a long time, right?
They traded for Rondo, didn't they?
They did add for Rondo. I guess maybe not the Cavs.
I'm
he could just be Rubio.
I'm Miles better than Mikal. So based. Oh,
yeah. Be quiet.
I'm sorry. He's cooler. Dunks more on a cooler team.
On a cooler team. Better. Shut up.
Yeah.
Booker's the coolest NBA player, and I live by that. That's my hot take.
I fear he's lost that title ever since he got mad at a mascot.
That was funny. Team. I thought that was fun. And then he saved it by changing his profile picture briefly to the Raptors mascot.
No, he's lame cool now. He's actually a big loser. So
no, he's not. Look at his Instagram and tell me what NBA player is matching the Devin Booker vibe. That dude rocks. He dropped 70 in a game one time. He's dating the best Kardashian. He's got a sick dog. He drives like vintage cars everywhere. He's just freaking awesome, dude. He has like he has the aesthetic every like indie kid wants, but he's a professional basketball player who was just in the finals and is arguably the best two guard in the league. So Devin Booker, coolest NBA player, I fear.
And Booker vibe. Yeah, Jalen Green, as soon as he starts being a good basketball player, we're set. I swear to God, he will.
I agree with you. I think I'm a Jalen Green fan.
I got Kuminga. I got Jalen Green. I got Shea. Who else do I have?
I was looking at Jalen Green's stats take, and they're so freaking shooting 3 for 16. You can't even make the tour joke with him recently because one of his
putting up Steph Curry numbers.
He is putting up Steph Curry. You can't even make the tour joke with him because on the 21st he shot 0 for 11, and 0 is in a month, so it's too bad to be a tour date. 3 for 13, 6 for 10, 5 for 18. 6 for 10 is not that bad. 5 for 18, 4 for 14, 6 for 12. Once again, not that bad. 3 for 10, 4 for 8, not that bad. 8 for 17, not that bad. But 0 for 11, bad. 3 for 16, bad. 3 for 13, bad. Over the past week, he's been shooting. He's been laying bricks, sadly. But I still like Jalen Green.
Well, it takes, how many games has he played total? 30. Yeah, it's going to take some time. Same thing with, who else everyone has just immediately completely given up on? Suggs. And I like Suggs. I feel like at least the defense is there for him now. But You just got to see some guys, they come in the league and they don't shoot well and it takes them a little time. But after about a year and a half is when I think you start getting worried if they don't start looking any better. But you got
Yeah.
time.
Well, the real young star is Cole Anthony in Orlando, and I'm a big Cole Anthony fan. He also just plays in Orlando, so he'll never get the respect he deserves until he leaves. Cole Anthony and Brandon Ingram are on the all Theo Ash team. Although recently, Cole Anthony is not on exactly on the hottest streak here over these past couple games, but I'm still
okay. Is Steph Curry the only NBA player who gets away with shooting with bad shooting percentages? Okay. He's not getting away with it though.
Right.
Nobody is like, almost no one is giving Curry a pass. I'm seeing it all over the timeline that he's in a slump. And look, I mean, I've got former Curry hater in my TikTok bio still. I think it's been it for like a year at least. But I think a lot of times people will be like, no one is talking about this as somebody is talking about it, or like instead of just talking about it. So I think people are aware of Curry's slump right now.
Yes. Yes. What else is going on? Cole Anthony, Harden-Simmons, Jared Vanderbilt, most underrated players in the league. As long as Cole Anthony's on that list, man, I love Cole Anthony. He'll be really good one day. And with Wagner, and Suggs, Orlando, they got to get, if there was like a star in Orlando, I think they could be a decent team. Like, I don't know. Orlando, I don't know. No one talking about the Heat. I'm talking about the Heat, Jack. I freaking love the Heat. I think the Heat are awesome. So, yeah. Talk about the Heat. Talk about the Heat. I'll talk about the Heat any day of the week. What have the Heat been up to recently? The Heat rock, like I said, when it's the fourth quarter of a close game, you want a bunch of psychopath basketball freaks on your team that just will never get rattled and just know what's up. And the Heat is like a team made out of those guys. So that's why the Heat are going to win the East. That was my take before the season. And it's my take now because the Miami Heat have champions. They're built completely with champions. Everyone on that roster is a stone cold killer. All right. Who knows ball. So, yeah, go Heat. Big Miami fan.
I agree. I think the Heat are definitely underrated in how much of a splash we can make. I feel like we usually hype them up.
They are number one in the East. Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. Which means they're only 2 games away from being the 6th seed. So
yeah, right. No, it's 1 injury away from missing the playoffs.
Watch out. Somebody said earlier that they didn't think the Timberwolves bench was that bad. And I actually haven't been watching a ton of Timberwolves. So if you feel otherwise, I'd be willing to be informed about the Timberwolves bench. But they still play. I'm not the big Nas Reed fan. Wolves talk. I'm talking about the Wolves. I'll speak on the Wolves. The reason why I don't like the Wolves has nothing to do with anything they've done. It's just like I got called a Wolves hater because I was, hyping up LaMelo because he plays for my team. And then getting called a Wolves hater, I'm like, well, maybe I'll make these guys right.
I forget about that rivalry you have with the Timberwolves.
It's also just fun.
The Hornets Timberwolves rivalry that exists. I always forget that exists.
Right. Well, it's just like you hate the Wolves. Who hates the Wolves? Who is like a Wolves?
Wolves fans hate the Wolves. Wolves fans hate the Wolves most of all, in my experience. But
yeah, they have a lot of young, inconsistent bench players. I think that's the disconnect. It's like you have players who you like because they're young and they show potential, but that doesn't necessarily make them good yet. Yeah. And it's easy to like what a player's like value is long term versus what they are now. It's easy to get those two things. Matt hates every team with a center. Yeah, there's 29 other teams who have actually. Plumlee has not been terrible recently. I'll give him that. He's not been awful. He can't be the guy. And
they should have brought Biyombo back.
That guy can't catch. That guy can't catch the ball. He can't catch the ball.
He fits right in with the rest of the Suns, though. That happens so many times in the freaking playoffs. They would just like Chris Paul would dish him some dime and they'd fumble it.
Why are you a Hornets fan? I'm from South Carolina.
You're from South Carolina. I always thought you were from North Carolina. Is Charlotte North Carolina? Charlotte is in North Carolina.
Yeah, Charlotte's in
I thought you were from like the Charlotte area.
No.
Because you were like talking about how shitty South Carolina is at one point, I think, when you were here. And how North Carolina is like very clear of it. I kind of assumed that's where you're from.
Well, people will be like, "Oh, you live in South Carolina by the beach," and it's like, that's like a 3-hour drive. It's not by the beach, and if you're not by the beach in South Carolina, it's not awesome. Shea should be an all-star. I think he's pretty borderline.
It's tough because I love Shea as well, and I think Shea has an argument to be like better than Booker and one of the better shooting guards in the league. I'm a really big fan of him, or Shea, whatever. But he's really good, even though I can't get his name right at the moment. But yeah, it's like, who do you vote him over? I guess maybe Booker, maybe Chris Paul, I guess. Maybe you get him in as a flex spot, but I don't know. It's pretty boring. It's pretty close.
I'm a Clemson fan. Don't say that. Don't say that about me, man. I'm not.
Where's Bladen at? Probably eating lemons and.
That's right.
He's bringing. I've seen a couple more lemon jokes now.
We've had a lot of like. There's a lot of accounts now. I got tagged in the Stay Cold one, and there's the out of context one, and
the out of context. Hey. The out of context one, I was hoping someone would make that because I thought about making. I'm like, what if there's some funny clips that we just have, like if you just post it with no context. I'm like, I should just start doing that. So I'm glad that there's someone watching us to post those because I actually had that in my head for a long time because I'm not letting any of you clowns follow it, but my second Instagram, my alt is no context Theo, where I'll just post like random videos and with no caption or anything. I'm like, someone needs to make a no context stay hot. But yeah, someone did make a no context stay hot. When is the Taos, New Mexico review coming? All right, Taos, New Mexico is where I was the second stop when I drove from Minnesota to Phoenix, and I was a big fan of Taos, New Mexico. I like the big bridge that went over that gorge. I drove over that a couple times. I liked how all the houses kind of blended in with the background, kind of the earth tones that were there. Big Taos, New Mexico fan. I didn't hear the hum. All right. I did not hear the hum in Taos, New Mexico. So I heard that there's like a mysterious hum. But yeah, New Mexico, like the Breaking Bad place. Yes, I drove through Albuquerque and I made my sister, who was driving with me, listen to a bunch of bad impressions of Breaking Bad characters. Bro, we need a cooking on Union Street. Who are you? How do you know that? Who said the cooking on Union Street thing? All right. That has not been on YouTube for a long time. All right. Hum's a myth. Yeah, I haven't heard it. Is DeJounte an MIP favorite? Is he? Matt, who is your MIP? Can you say Hero, even though Hero was good and then went bad and then got good again?
Yeah, that's kind of not a bad take. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. And MIP sucks. That word sucks. It's so because it's most improved player, but you can't be a second year player. And then you have to look in and be like, is this player really shooting that much better? Or is they just like getting a bigger workload? That's what happened with Grant last year. He was big in the MIP running, and it's like he's just shooting more.
Garland, who are some previous most improved player winners? Are they historically go on to have great careers? Let's see.
Julius Randle won last year. Tyrese Maxey. You guys know how I feel about Tyrese Maxey, but he's second year now, unless I'm really dumb.
Let's see. Julius Randle, Ingram, Siakam, Oladipo, Giannis, McCollum, Jimmy Butler, Paul George. These are all pretty good players. All right, over the past like decade or so. Ingram, Siakam, Oladipo, Antetokounmpo, McCollum, Butler,
Kuzma's
Paul
MIP
George.
is kind of not a bad take.
What?
Kuzma's MIP is kind of not a bad take. See, like you gotta sit down and look at the numbers a little bit with those guys. But Kuzma maybe because Kuzma was just straight up. He's been balling this year.
He's been balling.
And
He was the worst player I ever watched in that freaking Suns playoff series. That guy was so bad. Like he left LA on such a bad note, and that helps him too because it's like he's a lot better. And he was trending on Twitter he got the Danny Green treatment where he would just trend like 5 minutes into the game on Twitter. He was just the scapegoat. He was so bad. Yeah, no, I can get down for some Kuzma MIP. Kuzmania.
I'd also
Love
just
it.
be, I mean, the award's already dumb in my opinion. Well, I personally don't like it. It might also be with Kuzma that he is playing in a little bit bigger role. He's been on a hot streak recently, but that'd be a fun one.
Yeah, it is kind of a
Garland
weird
was
award, but looking at the guys who won it, I mean, it does have a pretty good track record of like guys who go on to have really successful careers, I guess. So that makes me feel a little bit better about it. Before that, it was like who was Aaron Brooks won, Danny Granger won, Hedu Turkoglu won for the Magic, Monte Ellis, Boris Diaw, Babysitting, and then you get into a pretty good stretch again with Gilbert Arenas, who I freaking love, Zebo, Jermaine O'Neal, T Mac. So it got a little bit. There's been stretches where it's been bad and stretches where it's been good. But anyway,
talk about how StatMuse is the worst account on Twitter. StatMuse is kind of funny.
StatMuse keeps
in the sense
freaking
that, like,
tagging me on TikTok with this dude who looks like me, I guess. StatMuse's account will literally be like at Theo Ash, this you, and it's literally just like this dude who's like off-brand me. And it's like, why is StatMuse's account? I'm not even like a.
It is funny. It's like this statistic website, and they're just like pushing hilarious narratives. Like they're not even trying to hide it. Every single one of their tweets has an agenda.
Yes.
I can appreciate it a little bit.
Yeah, StatMuse, some of their tweets I think are lame, but overall,
yeah,
StatMuse has the best graphics up there with Clutch Points. Look, we used to work with Clutch Points, the two of us. And Clutch Points, the graphics they'd make for us, and just like we should have, when we worked there, we should have done the craziest articles and like made them make the stupidest. We could have made some classic Clutch Points graphics if we like played our cards right there, but we fucked it up and we blew it. Like we could have been like, Clutch Points guy, I really want to make this story on like, I think LeBron got plastic surgery. I really think LeBron got plastic surgery, guy. I'm gonna write this story on it and then like see what they come up with.
Yeah, give him like just something really vague and crazy and see what happens.
My favorite Clutch Points graphic of all time is the irony with Rudy Gobert scoring the first points of the bubble. The irony. I love it.
We got to talk a little bit about this poll.
He said the Lakers went 24-24 and 8th in the West to honor Kobe. That's so funny.
You lost the babysitter poll.
Yes, by a considerable margin.
It's always my question. What do you guys think Theo is like going to do? Right? Like, do you think you could take care of a baby for like 6 hours?
No. Well, the real worst babysitter is again you, because you, I think, would have the least amount of patience with the kid. I think that
I would not be the worst babysitter.
I don't know if you would be either, but like,
look,
you'd start to resent you'd start to be like, the parents are, as my bosses aren't doing.
Look, Bladen would be the best.
Yeah, you should vote for Bladen.
Bladen, like, you know, gets his little sister to practice and all the time and whatnot. So Bladen is the right answer. But I don't know. I kind of, because maybe you're right. Maybe I would resent the baby.
But people are saying I would resent the baby. Like I would get mad at the baby, or I would like show it college football film. It's like, no, I wouldn't. But Bladen is the best. But like me and Bladen, I'm the oldest. I don't know if Bladen's the oldest, but he's pretty damn near. So I don't know. People don't know this lore about us, but it's like I've had to be the oldest, and I've had to drive people around, and I've had to be the oldest person at home. You are the youngest. You've never had to take care
Yeah,
of that shit in
I
your
guess
life.
that maybe that's the angle. I'm a younger sibling, too. So
Yeah.
I
I wouldn't
wouldn't
be
get it.
that bad with a kid though. Kids like me. Well, kids really like me because, and this is probably a reason why I probably would be the worst babysitter, maybe, but kids won't like me because I kind of like am a little bit mean to them.
That's gonna end up on Stay Hot, no context.
No context. Kids don't like me because I'm a little bit mean to kids. Like if a kid comes up to me and like I haven't been around kids in a while, but like when I was like in theater or um, back in Northfield, with the neighborhood like block parties or whatever, if a kid came up to me and was like, isn't this cool? Isn't this cool? And if it's not cool, I'll be like, not really. And then it becomes like their goal to like they think but I think they like it because everyone in their lives treats them like a little kid, and I don't. I'm just like, I don't really care. And then they'll be like, oh, this guy, I want now. It's like an extra challenge to like appease this guy because he's hard to please, and then they really like me, and they want to do what I say more than they want anyone else to do what they say. So being a little, you can't be too mean to them, obviously, but there's a fine line where like being a little bit like mean to kids makes them like you a lot more, and I feel like I skate that line very well. And I don't know if that makes me a bad babysitter or a horrible babysitter, but kids do
Yeah,
like
you're
me. Kids do like me.
well.
I
How
actually
good
would
of
be
a
the worst
babysitter?
babysitter. Now that I think about it, I'm not really organized. I like to be mean to kids, but only because they also enjoy it. I don't like to do it because I'm mean, but I do it because they also like it. They enjoy. Try being. Look, if there's a little kid, you gotta like if you ever next time you see a little kid out on the street, be mean to them. They'll love
You're
you.
you're right to be last on the poll. You have too many votes.
Kids do like me. Oh God.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
you want to end it here?
Yeah, I can end it here.
I
Oh, wait, I gotta talk about Theo kid abuser. I'm not abusing them. I'm just like being a little bit like treating them almost more like I don't coddle them. All right. Like if this
that's the word for it. It's like,
like some kids, they'll come, oh my God, that's such a great drawing. You're so good. Oops, that's my alarm. That's not me. All right. Yeah, I think you could do a little bit better with this. All right. I think you could do a little bit better with the trees on this drawing. I think that you could maybe add some stuff to it. It's a little plain right now. And then they just go, they're like, oh, this guy just made me a better artist. I love this guy.
yeah, show you a picture. You're like, not your best work.
Not your best work. And they like it. All right. They kids appreciate the challenge. All right. They appreciate the challenge.
How much experience could you possibly have doing this?
Not that much. Not that much. I was in theater and I was in some plays with some small kids in it, and they were always like the extra, like Oliver, right? Oliver is a kid. There's like the kid like orphanage, and there was like a bunch of kids there, and I would just mess around with the kids and just be like, how fast can you do it? Like, can you do this fast? No, you're too slow doing that. I'm gonna time you. I know you can go faster. Just be a little bit like, give them like, oh, you could be a little bit better, and watch them achieve their full potential, if you can say that.
Have you ever had that that work out poorly for you? Like you tell a kid like, what do you think of my drawing? And you're like, it sucks.
Not that I can remember.
And
I
they just
can't
start
remember like
crying.
me ever making a kid cry or anything. One time the last time I made a kid cry was an ill-fated game of dodgeball. That was the last time I made a kid cry. That was years ago though.
What's your go-to dodgeball strategy? I'm more of a sit back and assess type player.
I used to play dodgeball every Tuesday with a bunch of drug dealers. All right. Me and my friend Griffin, we would go to the local like gym, and it was like no one knew that this was a thing that like the city offered. And it was like midnight, and you could go and play dodgeball at this gym at like this school. And like it would be us and like the most like horrible people you can imagine who would all come play dodgeball. And the guy who ran it had like no arms and one leg, and he was in a wheelchair. And there are some kids who were like really freaking good at dodgeball there, and like they threw the ball really hard, and like one kid would like throw it with a curve ball. So in my years of playing dodgeball at this place, I just kind of learned that like you gotta the strategy is like the amount of balls. Like if you can get you want to hold them, like holding them to the point where sometimes you'll get all three. Like if we've always played with three, and like the big strategy was make them throw all make them throw it to the point where they don't have any and we have all three, so then we can strategize. We'll all aim for one person, and that is how you do it. It's like don't just take it and throw, but like when you have two or one or three, the whole strategy changes. So like you got to pay attention to the amount of balls that are on your side. That's my dodgeball strategy.
Fair enough.
All right.
Yeah.
Theo ... Look, all right, we're talking about dodgeball. People like, oh, holding balls, holding balls. Look, what do you want me to say? All right, I'm digging myself. Pay attention. You do the dodgeballs. You got to hold the dodgeballs, and you got to get all three on your side at once, and then strategize from there when there's no threat of getting hit. All right, next time you play dodgeball, get all of them on your side. All right, that should be your only goal, and then go from there.
Well, so what do you? So you just okay? So you get all the dodgeballs onto your half of the court,
Yes.
and what do you? What do you do with that? Do you like
You
try to
aim at
aim
their
for the
best.
same
You aim at their
person?
best player with when you get all three. You don't throw and try to knock three guys out at once. You single out one guy, and you try to hit that guy, and you try to get him out. Once you get all three, you single. You hold up, all three, and then sometimes we would be like, okay, we're gonna go for that guy, and then there would be like a hand signal, and like one person would actually go for a different guy. Like we would once you had all three, the strategy came out, and it was
You got the
like,
hand
all right,
signals.
we're gonna say like we're gonna go for Cole, but if I'm actually like turned around and like pointed somewhere else where it's a diversion, and we're actually gonna go for someone else, or maybe two people will go Cole and one person will go. Burton was another guy who was there. He was wicked, and it's like, okay, we're gonna strategize on how we're gonna throw these. All right. Anyway, yeah, I me playing dodgeball with a bunch of like just high school dropouts and drug dealers. That was a big part of my high school experience.
Well, I think that about does it for us, unless you have
I think so
anything
too.
else. Yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be back next week and check out all the other stuff on the Stay Hot account.
Yes.